You want to talk about a big dumb dipshit coach, Ty Sirianni. I don't think there was one human that wore a suit and talked about sports that didn't say, is this the dumbest human to ever exist that has gotten a head coaching job up there in Detroit? MCDC has turned the entire culture around in Detroit, representing the city of Detroit in a way I don't think the fans have felt like the team has in maybe a century.
Yeah.
Now, they're on the precipice of making a run that would make the entire city of Detroit mayo all over themselves.
Amen.
Bingo.
Coach MCDC was asked about what the word grit means to him and what it has been like from day one to now where his culture has come.
The grit theme that you've adopted and you're wearing on your hat, when you made your infamous bite your kneecaps thing when you were introduced, you got a lot of national play and laughs for that, but seriously, it's something you've tried to institute here, and I'm wondering if that was a tough sell at first.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, I don't know, because if it was, I didn't notice it, and I wasn't going to listen to it anyway. It's what we were doing here, and the players that are here are for that reason. The players that have been able to stick, it's what we're about. It's what we'll always be about, above everything else. If you don't have that, and you don't have intestinal fortitude or mental toughness, resiliency about you, then you're not going to be able to play here. That's the bottom line. So, but no, our guys believe that. You know, the coaches believe it. The whole organization believes it's the bedrock of what we're about.
Being gritty is one of the greatest compliments you can kind of give to somebody, because it means they're willing to do whatever to get the job done in a good way, obviously in a good fashion. Yeah. I happen to be on a team where grit was the actual motto of the squad.
Whoa.
So much so that grit chips, as if they were challenge coins, were handed out to everybody on the team. Now, that coach that did that was kind of mocked and ridiculed, but I think what we all took it as was, hey, we got to do the dirty work to become the best that we could possibly be, and the whole team bought in, just like they're doing up in Detroit. That head coach was Chuck Pagano. Chuck, whenever you see grit across his forehead and grit on the wall up there, does that make you feel proud of the fact that we had a very similar motto? Or what are your thoughts on it? And why is grit the best word to describe how you want a football team to be?
Hey, look, we're so fortunate to be able to, coach and play a kid's game, right? And there's real life stuff going on. Like this is nothing, but stuff's going to happen. You're going to face adversity. There's going to be obstacles. And what I love about Dahn, like from the beginning, he talked about it, right? And he's never wavered. And who's had more obstacles, who's faced more adversity than this group? And then to see where they're at right now, how we started, like life's tough, right? And as soon as you figure that out, it starts getting a hell of a lot easier. And the fact that you are going to get hit in the mouth, you're going to have some bad losses, you may have 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, as long as you don't put down the axe and you just keep chopping, right? And you keep fighting and you keep swinging, you keep believing that it'll turn. Like most people don't get to the mountaintop. You know why?
Stop climbing.
No, they look up.
Oh, okay.
And they just think it's insurmountable, right? And there's no way I can accomplish this goal. So you got to have grit. You got to have resiliency. You got to have perseverance, because there's going to be some stuff. You're going to be faced with some challenges. And look, you're going to hit some. You have what it takes. You just have to figure out a way to pull that shit out of yourself.
There we go.
When stuff hits the fan, when things get tough. And so that's what you got to love. And they've taken on the personality of this guy, and to see where they're at right now based on Angela Duckworth wrote a book on this a long time ago. She's the author of a book called Grit. And that's where I first learned about it. And then we adopted it and brought it into our program, at the Colts. And so, yeah, you're going to face some stuff. And you know what? There are no pity parties. You remember?
Oh, yeah.
Remember
Robert
after
Mathis.
the Jacksonville game?
Yeah.
And we had that game won, and then Blaine Gabbert hit Cecil Shorts on a skinny post, and we lost that game. And the next week, I'm down at Simon, right?
Yeah.
And I get echoed. I get that call. Hey, you have this.
Look in.
And you're like, what? And that's right when you say, okay, this is when I need this the most. And there are no pity parties. I remember, Robert saying that to the team. There are no pity parties in life. There's no pity parties in football. So let's look at the tape. Let's man up, come back tomorrow, and let's keep moving forward. And when you get news like that, there are no pity parties in life. That's all he could think about. And you look at your family, you look at your wife, you think about your kids, and you think about the team and the job that you got. Like, okay, what the frick do I got to do to overcome this shit? I'm winning this battle. And you got to make up your mind. Like, that group made up their mind, like, hey, we're sticking by this guy. We're not backing down from shit. We're going to see this thing through, and now look at it.
Hell yeah.
Let's go.
Hell yeah, coach.
Hell yeah, coach.
That was awesome, coach.
Hell yeah. That's the meaning of grit there.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Stick-to-itiveness.
That's right.
Stick-to-itiveness.
I think it's a real thing. The grit coins were awesome. These grit chips he tossed out, so cool.
Can you get more if you do something gritty or what?
No, everybody just had one. You better have it too.
Yep.
It's not being embarrassed.
Oh.
You know how you get challenge coins? Remember we went on the USO tour?
yeah,
We were to Japan. At
Yeah.
every military base, you get a challenge coin, right? And so those military guys, when you have that coin, if you're in a unit, and they ask the leader of that unit, the general comes up to you, whoever, right? Say, hey, let me see your challenge coin. If you ain't got that challenge coin on you, it's your ass. And so that was a part of that deal too, because it had win on one side, right?
I think I still
it
have
had
it.
grit on the other side. So we got in the habit of everybody carrying that down because somebody could challenge you. Hey, you got your grit coin.
Yeah, it was a gimmick that outside the locker room at the beginning, I think people laughed at. And I think inside the locker room, we're like, okay, so we got props.
That kind of
And
sweet.
I was like pretty pumped up that we got props in the entire thing. Never seen this before. But then lo and behold, it became a thing inside of our locker room. And it's like, that's all you're trying to do as a coach is you're just trying to reach a team. MCDC has clearly done that, AJ. But just like other people are going to be looking for the next MCDC, I think he's one-on-one. How does he remain so strong? Like his neck has not... You know, you see
Because he probably is jacking weight up 7 days a week at 4 a.m. You know that.
What's his coffee order in the morning?
Two ventis, douche with an extra espresso shot in each, and then I'll actually do another venti, man, right after that. Drinking about 1,000 milligrams of caffeine before 10 a.m., man.
Yeah, and he says 2 black eyes.
Yep, 2 black eyes. Yep, that's the espresso shot, and that's the douche. That's the douche. So yeah, I need my coffee, man.
Dude, he's an animal.
I saw somewhere it said it's the equivalent of 10 Red Bulls. I don't know if that's possible, but I saw it somewhere.
I believe
He's a big guy. He can handle it.
Yeah, makes
Every
sense.
day, dude.
That's so much.
Remember how big he was in person at
Yeah.
the Colts training camp?
Yeah, so Jim Irsay, who is going through some from what we're being told, very serious stuff right now.
Yeah.
So obviously we are sending positive thoughts and love towards Jim Irsay. But when we were interviewing Jim Irsay, we were supposed to have MCDC on. And MCDC in the background of the shot is just like standing there like, I gotta go talk to the team, man. Because like Jim was answering questions how Jim Irsay answers questions, which is, I mean, you might not expect a 35-minute answer to come. Just standard question, how you doing?
Yep.
Okay.
Boom, and he's off.
Green flag racing.
Yeah.
He is, so we powered through the start time, and there was no end in sight for an answer from the Jim Irsay answer.
No.
So there was so it was an interesting scene, actually. But all of us turned around and looked at Dan Campbell. At one point, he was like 10 feet away from us, and went, holy, while Jim's talking, holy shit.
Massive.
Look how big that guy is.
Yeah.
Just strapping lad. Absolutely strapping lad. I think that's another piece of it in that locker room. I genuinely do.
Doesn't hurt.
Because they see him in
They
see him in a weight room. He does up downs with him before practice.
Player.
And then former player. And as he's giving speeches, he's like, all I do is think about you guys. It's just like what we said about Vrabel. It's like he's a player on the team, but he's the captain. Like you know what I mean? He's the guy that has to keep people in line. He's the one that has to create the vision. But I feel like the boys view him as like, he's here with us. He wants to win alongside of us. Like, that's not easy to find either. I think people think that that's going to be easy. That's not. That's a rare leadership ability that very few humans in the history have. And he's been the same guy since the beginning.
Yes.
Jocked
Yep.
and gritty.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it is awesome to see it work.
And on a day where we're talking about firing head coaches and whatnot, year one under MCDC, this team started 0-10. 0-10. We actually thought they were going to go 0-17. Year two, they start 1-6. That's when everyone wanted him fired. Nope. They rally the troops. They they go to 9-8. They almost make the playoffs, and then it leads into this year. I mean, I couldn't picture a better person for the city of Detroit either. That's the best part.
And he wears the, IndyCar helmet whenever the race is
Yes.
Detroit Grand Prix is coming. He talks about the city all the time, about what he says we as the city. I mean, it's like a perfect marriage, AJ. It's a perfect marriage.
I would bet the team too. Like, think how many guys on any NFL roster are disgruntled or kind of pissed off that they feel like they're not getting enough time. There's always going to be that. Like, no matter what, I would imagine that the Lions with Dan Campbell feels like, say, one player's like, saying something about the head coach or complaining about the head coach. I could see the Lions, the other players, like, hey, no, you don't get it, man. You haven't been anywhere else. You don't understand how good we have it, how awesome this guy is. So shut your mouth. Like, I would assume they kind of self-police all that kind of stuff because that can kind of trickle in if there's like factions of certain people that like the head coach, certain people that don't, all of that stuff. It feels like they're pretty much a unified one big unit over there.
Oh, yeah, little cliques, little gossipy, obviously. Brad Holmes brought in the right people, though.
Yes.
And Spielman. It feels like they've done it right from the ground up.
Well, and like you just look at a situation like the Raiders. Like, could you imagine, let's just say in this theoretical world that McDaniels and Antonio Pierce had the exact same message and they wanted to do the exact same thing, but obviously what Pierce has done as a player and who he is just on a day-to-day basis clearly is so much more well-received than a McDaniels, who, although McDaniels has the offensive coordinator, Super Bowls, resume type stuff, he just doesn't communicate with the team like the way you were talking about MCDC does.
Well, and in terms of like the team building, like he just said, I mean, Chuck would obviously know more about this or anyone who's like in a GM role, but it seems like a lot of times when guys get drafted, like certain places are okay with drafting a guy and then saying like, hey, we'll mold you into what we want you to be for this culture. MCDC just said it right there. Yeah. Like, we're getting guys who are kind of in my image. Like, there are certain guys who just won't work here. So he's okay with getting a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Jack Campbell and having everyone say, hey, you reach for these guys. Like, this isn't a premium position. You shouldn't have got these guys.
Whatever,
here.
man.
Yeah, exactly. But he knows, like, no, these are the guys who are kind of in my image. They're going to be successful in our program, whereas other teams don't necessarily always do that.
Biggest compliment, I think, to a brand is whenever somebody can say, that person is a boom. You know, like I think Stanford was trying to do it back. That's a Stanford guy. That's a Stanford guy. That's a Michigan man. That's a Michigan man.
State.
I think people will say, well, I think
that's what they said
for a little bit. Yeah, I wasn't a Penn State guy. Is what I was told by Mike McQuarrie. Yes, that Mike McQuarrie. But I think people will say like, he's a lion.
Yeah.
You know?
Hell yeah.
And when you have an identity, that is really all anybody that is a failure is trying to search for. And normally the only way you can build an identity is you have to have success. Because if you have failure and you don't get the success, well, the identity is going to be changing anyways because you're going to be searching for it. Now, it's almost like you can watch some players and it's like that he'd be a good lion. Like he'd be a good lion. That was never even thought of in the past about the Detroit Lions.
No.